Welcome to Make Art, a hands-on course for engineering design, a course taught at the University of South Florida. In this video, we're going to take a look at Maya file management, projects, and preferences. When you first open up Maya, you have an untitled document or an untitled scene. Remember that Maya files are called scenes. If you go to File, New Scene, you'll create a new file. Remember that Save Scene will allow you to save the current scene, and Save As will allow you to save the scene as a different iteration. If you look at the Save or Save As, you have some options. You have a Maya binary file or a Maya ASCII file. Pretty much the same in terms of size. However, the binary is zeros and ones, and the ASCII is a format of language that might be able to be read by somebody at Autodesk or somebody else if your file, say, becomes corrupt or something like that. But the good rule of thumb is to just save multiple versions, multiple copies, multiple times over and over again. So when you create or open Maya for the first time, you will have a project that will automatically be created in your Documents folder. So if you look in your Documents folder, you will have a Maya folder, and in the Maya folder you'll have 2016. In 2016, that's where it will hold your preferences and scripts and so forth and so on. If you go up again to the Maya folder, you'll have projects. In projects, you'll have default. The default projects will contain all the different folders where Maya may place items according to what you're doing within that particular scene or project. If you look in scenes, that's where your scenes that you save will be located by default. You might want to do something like save textures or images if you're creating renders or a movie sequence or something like that. You could save that in one of these other files, or by default, for instance, in images, Maya will save any rendered files in the images folder. Of course, these can all be changed. For instance, if you go to Save As and you change the location to a different folder or something else, then the file will be located there. Just realize that when you're working with Maya, by default is creating this default project. You can create new projects by going down to File, Project Window. This will open the project window for you, and you can click here, Create New, and you can use all of the default settings. It will just create these subfolders for you automatically. You'll give it a location where you want this new project to be saved, and you can click Accept if you want to save a new project. Again, projects are just a way to organize all different types of files. If you already have a project created and you just want to relink files, you can go to File and down to Set Project. This will allow you to choose within your Documents Maya folder which project you want to set this particular scene to. So I only have default, so that's the one it's going to be set to by default, and that's the only one I can set it to right now. But if I had created other projects under here, I could set this particular scene, and each scene that I open afterwards would save automatically in that project when I went to save. Another thing that you want to look at is the preferences. So when we're looking in Maya by default, we see this grid space and we see different grid lines or grid units. But what are these units representing? And we had already talked about our timeline and what our frame rate is, currently 24 frames per second. But if we want to adjust that, we can go up to Window and down to Settings, Preferences, and over to Preferences. We can see our preference window has multiple different options and submenus underneath. For instance, we're looking at the interface. We can adjust different things, how they show, where they come up, the different menu sets, so forth and so on. I typically leave these all default. If you look at the UI environment, you can turn different things off by checking on the box. You can save these, so then next time those will automatically be turned off. You can show or hide like your attribute editor by default. So if you're looking for that, you can do that. Same thing with tools or tool options. There's another one here called View Cube. You can show or hide the view cube according to what you want. This view cube will just appear up in the upper right corner and will show you kind of where you're located around, and will allow you to click on it. So here it's top right corner, this is bottom right corner. You can give it a different opacity if you want it 75%, 100%, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'll leave the view cube off, sometimes I'll turn it on. This just allows you to look at different Maya help. You have the display settings and performance settings that you can adjust for your particular machine. I'll jump down to settings here. So settings is an important one because this is where you can set your up axes for this particular system that you're on. So right now our up axis is Y, but we can change it to Z if we want. And then you'll notice that our little compass down in the left corner will switch. Put it back to Y. And then here you set up your working units. By default, Maya is set up for centimeters. You can change it to millimeters, meters, inches, feet, yards. And then here you have your frames per second. So by default it's 24 frames per second. And then you have different ways of changing that time if you want. I suggest leaving it at 24, but depending on what you're doing, it's up to you. Some other settings are in here in terms of the time slider or time range, so what it will default to. It's currently defaulting to 400 because that's the last one I had in there when I saved everything and saved my preferences, but you can change all that up here as well as changing it down in the timeline. Then you have different displays in terms of what animation tools or items will show up, what manipulators will show up, the size of the manipulator, which is the move tool or scale tool, that kind of thing. You have polygon displays, NURBS displays. So this is again just preferences, what you prefer in terms of working generally whenever you work in Maya. And again, those preferences can just be saved, and then once you reopen Maya again, all of those preferences should be set. So you'll never have to set them again unless you want to redo some of that project. So that's it for this video on setting up projects, saving files within Maya, and preferences.